So at Impact Hub, we kind of focus on three things. One of them is events, so events like this, where we help bring our community together to learn new skills and to inspire you to create impact. The second thing is we're a business incubator, so we help young Cambodians start social businesses. We do this through a variety of different programs, taking entrepreneurs who are at idea stage to ones that are at growth stage, we're having real impact in Cambodia. And the third thing we are a community. So during the day, this is a space where people that are making impact in Cambodia, so people that are working towards the Sustainable Development Goals, come here to work and connect with each other, collaborate, and create impact together. So that's what we do. I'm going to pass it over to David now. Just to quickly tell you as well that we are having an event on the 28th of September, so just after the Pigeon Bed holidays, which is called Breakfast with the Experts, and it's on CSR, and it's with John from Smart Anxiety. With Smart. He's going to be talking about CSR, sorry. It's a morning event. If you're interested, I will be sending some details out soon. And if you're interested in signing up to our newsletter to find out about more events like this, then please let me know. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. So now on to my talk. And what could be more exciting than data, right? Good. Good stuff. So we're going to, there's 6 sections today. We're going to talk about how things are outdated currently. And then I'll explain who I am. Then I'm going to demonstrate a new way that data could be shown. I'm going to show you how data can come in. And then I'm going to give you tips about which visuals to use for data. I'm going to show you some demos and experiences that I've used with this stuff. And then I'll summarize what we've done today. So, this is a guy who's a bit out of data. Outdated. The 50-page report, the thing that we all strive for and we all think is the be-all and end-all, and we all have to complete the 50-page report because it's really important. And nothing can distract us from the 50-page report. Oh wow, I got 20 likes on my cat video on Facebook. Sorry guys, I need to check this out first. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. This is how we learn in 2017. We learn from tiny little posts that are at most 2 lines long, or little memes like this with a little bit of text and just images. More specifically, 2-minute YouTube clips, memes on Instagram, or 140-character tweets. This is the way we consume data in 2017. How far is this from the 50-page report? It's completely different. It's on opposite ends of the spectrum. We do the 50-page report because we've always done it, and because people have always shown us how to do it, and expected us to do it for that reason. We like to click away. Ooh, got another YouTube clip that lasts for 2 minutes. Let's see who's tweeting about it. Let's check it out on Instagram. Bored now, let's go to this blue YouTube clip and let's see what's happening in every regard on that. And when we've got data, we might have something like this, where someone's done a really good job of showing you voter turnout and then splitting out by age group. And your boss asked you for this at 4 o'clock yesterday, and you've been working through the night to dig down to the data and try and get it to work. And you come back, it's 9 a.m., and you show it to your boss, and they're determined to look at it, and you're like, look how much I care about this, and look at what I did for it. And the boss turns around to you and said, oh, actually, can we get it disaggregated by gender? And you have an idea of how to do that, but your boss has no idea that that means you basically have to go back to the entire data set and rebuild every table, and then rebuild every chart on top of it. And you have to do it 2 times as well now. So eventually you get back to your data set that you have to redo every time, and you finally give it to your boss. And then the boss is pretty impressed at what you did. So he likes what you've done, he likes your disaggregation, and then he says, you know what, can you give me this every month? Maybe every week? And then you know that every month or every week you're going to be trained to doing this report. And you might be able to make things work. You might be able to tell him, well, we're going to use some smart formulas, maybe some pivot tables, maybe some other automation tools to make it give what we want, but you're never going to be able to run away from the problem and the fact that you have to redistribute it. So that means your 50-page report, now that you have disaggregated by male and female, is probably going to even have to grow even more to include all this new information, all this disaggregation. But the main problem with this 50-page report is the one word on the slide. It's static. It means that you either get it by male, you get it by female, you get it for one moment in time, and any time new data comes in, you have to change it. Your stakeholders, they say they want 50-page reports. Excuse me, I'm not very familiar with buzzwords for NGOs, so I might be misusing them on a couple of instances. So this is one of our stakeholders, and she wants 50-page reports. So looking at our personal devices. So let's take a step out of data and look at technology. So, pop quiz question. Does anyone know this one? This is the mini disc. When was this released? Any ideas?
91.
91. Very close.
No, I was going to say 93.
Oh, in between. Yeah, very good. 92. Even though it didn't become popular till later on. This is the Game Boy Color. When did this get released?
94.
96. No, a bit more. Yeah, 98. Very good. And finally, the Nokia 3310, the phone that a lot of us had all that time ago, the phone that everyone had to have. It was the best thing in the world. And it could play Snake in 2 dimensions. And it was so cool in the height of technology. When was this released?
2002.
Nope. Less. Very close to this one.
97.
Yeah, 99. Yeah, very good. So these were the devices that we were looking at and using a lot about 20 years ago. Let's take one of those further. So this is the mini disc. And when it comes to listening to music, we changed from actual media into just files on our computer, on our devices when we had iPods, MP3s. So we not only changed and upgraded from a CD to a mini disc, but we transformed the way we did music. And more recently, we've transformed it again with services like Spotify, like Apple Music. We've completely transformed the way we do music. Two times in the last 20 years. In 1998, so about 20 years ago, 90% of what we did at the office was emails, meetings, looking things up on Google, and using Microsoft Office 97. Until, remember this? Ah, no, error. Boom. So what changed after that? Was there any problems with the bug?
No, because all the IT guys worked really, really, really hard and nothing went wrong.
I know this guy. Yeah, so nothing actually changed that we saw change. Exactly, nothing changed. In 2017, 90% of Office life is email, Google, meetings, and Microsoft Office 97. Right? Oh no, it's the audience. We use Office 2016. I'll have you know we don't use Office 97. Okay, well hold that thought because I don't think that you do. I'm going to give you an example. So this is the data tab on Excel, and this is the sort and filter buttons. These are the buttons that we tend to click on. This is the data tab in Excel. I've taught Excel to over 600 people here, and I know that very few people click on anything more than these 4 buttons. So if saying you use Microsoft Office 2016, I'm sorry, but you don't. This is the equivalent. You've got an amazing iPhone 8 now, iPhone X, that's just come out. But the only things that you use are the phone and the messages icons. Because you never bother clicking on the new stuff to see what it will do. Well, in this talk, I'm going to show you some of those cool new things because they are revolutionary. Yeah, well, in the office we use a few more technologies. We use Skype, we use iPads and Facebook. But what do these three things have in common? They were all used by individual consumers before businesses. We were Skyping our grandparents when we were backpacking through Europe, and then eventually the businesses were like, hey, maybe we can use that thing to contact our people in New York. And it was only after the users, the consumers, started using this tech that businesses caught on. Business is 20 years behind technology, and that's why a lot of you guys probably haven't seen the kind of tech that I'm about to show you today. So here I've got a video playing. This is using one of these software features. Has anyone seen this before? Can anyone guess what? Does anyone know what program I'm using here? Google? Not Google. What else? Excel, yes. Very good. So this is using Excel. This is a video that I took of using Excel where you can click on different criteria and watch the charts change based on what's being clicked on. All right, next question. What program did I use to record this video on my screen? Excel? Not Excel. PowerPoint, yeah. PowerPoint 2013 and 16 has a thing called a screen recorder, which is super easy to use where you can record your screen with or without audio. I use it lots and lots, and I posted like 150 videos online of me doing that. Do you remember the first time you saw an iPhone? Do you remember how it was just so much better than anything else that had ever been on the market? Because throughout the 90s and the early noughties, you had Nokia progressing. Oh my God, we just got a color screen. Wow. Oh my God, we just got a camera. And then iPhone is just like, you know what? You can use touchscreen, you can go online, you can pinch to zoom, you can do 5,000 other features that is not even in Nokia's radar. And then Nokia kind of crashed after that, and they never recovered. So let's look at some data that we have. Here we go. So this is using an app. This is something that I did with Impact Hub, where I looked at the results based on a survey. And this is the visualization that we did. So here we have how many people felt a part of the community, 77%. How many people wanted to try new things, 81%, etc., etc. How many people had made 10 or more new connections, 5 to 10 new connections, etc. You point at it and it gives you the answer. There are 100 respondents in the survey. Now, so far, it's just a really nice way that we can kind of do this with normal apps. So here's where it gets amazing. If you want to see, well, the people that have made over 10 connections, how did they respond? Click on that. And all of the data changes to show you the results only for those people. So here is an example because I know Melanie is trying to promote that people should make new connections via Impact Hub. And the people that responded did really, really well compared to everyone else. So they have made 94% feel part of the community, 100% feel inspired, 18 respondents, compared to 83%, 73%. So you can really get insights into your data in a much newer way. And you can click on virtually anything on this chart to get the other charts to abide by those rules. It's really Simple as that. Whatever you click on, the other charts follow that criteria. Good. So that is an example of this new app that has been around for 2 years called Power BI. And I'm going to be showing more examples throughout the session, but that is an example of what it can do. But the coolest part is not that you can click and the charts move. The coolest part is where the data comes from. Because I know you guys, and I know that when it came to writing the proposal and creating the budget, you didn't think about putting in a database creation in there. And instead, you've kind of gone through the whole project with broken Excel files, where you've got siloed Excel files that are just broken and made up of different data connections and made up of different things. And they're siloed away in different parts of the organizations, they don't speak to each other, and it's not really feasible to get them to speak to each other with the technology that we've had available in '98. But now it is. So you've got your different Excel files, you've got Kev, Tom, January, February, and you also have this other thing where you have your logical framework, your log frame, and you have the additional issue that even if you pick a database structure, your log frame just keeps changing and rotating back and forth and back and forth like that. Wow, you guys are looking at me like you've never seen a rotating 3D object in PowerPoint. Jesus. Are you using Office 97 still or something? And also, I'm sorry about Salesforce, but the most clicked button that you have in your system is export to. And this is the case not just for Salesforce, but most online apps, the most clicked button is the export to Excel button. Because it's like, I love your little reports, but what about if I want to see sales data against this data against here, and you don't offer that report? I'll just export them all and combine them together somehow. Well, I lie, it's the third most clicked option. Number 1 is okay, and number 2 is cancel. Actually, probably the other way around. So this talk is a mixture. It's a mixture of tips for your everyday Microsoft Excel users and some stuff for the experts to show you what's available in the technology that exists. Excel can do a lot too. So let's go to this Excel file. So over here, I showed you this stuff where you can click on these things and things change. So how do we do that? First, you create a pivot table. I'm not going to go through how to create a pivot table in this session, but if you want, I have a video online where you can learn it. But from your pivot table, you click on the Analyze button. In there, there's a heap of things that you've probably never even looked at. One of them is called Insert Slicer. You get a list of what you want to slice. Let's go for a fruit. Press OK. And it introduces this. Kind of like a filter that's clickable. But it's linked to multiple things. So it's linked, if I click bananas, I can see who the people were who sold the bananas. And it's also linked to the chart that I created from the pivot table as well. So if I scroll here, I can see that the chart is only showing me these 2 people. And if I click mango, it's showing me these 4 people. And apples is showing me only 1. So that is it, Insert Slicer. This other thing, this is called a timeline. And it works in basically the same way. You just click in your pivot table. You go to Analyze, Insert Timeline, and you get it for the date. Then you press OK, and that's basically it. And you see your data change based on what's selected there. It is also important to kind of understand this tool. This is the report connections. So here you can click on which pivot tables you want linked. And there's a tick box next to each one here. So you can tick or untick them to get there. So that is using a slicer in Excel. Where Power BI is much cooler though, is that you can click on virtually any object that becomes a slicer. So here this is, I'm organizing a bachelor party for my friend Alex Fish. And he lives in England. And basically I just wanted everyone to come to Asia because I'm in Asia. So I did what every normal friend would do. I created a Google Forms where everyone submits the results, and then I analyze the results in a Power BI dashboard. Right? You guys would do that as well? So here are the results. And the result is that Asia was less, but if we look at the data a bit more closely, the people that want to go to Europe are more inclined to go for 1 to 3 days, and we don't like that. We want a really long bachelor party. So apparently we're going to the Paracel Islands, but it's in Asia over here. And again, everything's clickable. Click on this. See how the people who want to go to Asia responded. This is how they responded. This is as a result of the total. 6 out of the results of the total. You can even see who responded through their pictures, through their images. They don't know that I'm doing this, by the way. So I'm going to be telling them later on. So who wants to go volunteering on a bachelor party? Apparently a lot of us. Who wants to play poker? These people. Click on the people. Click on me. This is how I responded. Click on this person, Richard. This is how he responded. Or we want to go in 2017. Let's see when in 2017. Click here. Drill down. This is how it's split. Drill back up. Click in here. When do they want to go? 44% want to go in April to May. This want to go in the earlier period. Or this is my favorite, especially because his name is Fish. So let's go to focus mode here. Here we go. So this is one of the visuals that you can get, where the size of the fish dependent on how many people should choose, how many activities they want to do. So yeah, I don't show it in the main article, but you can get all these kind of fun, random visuals. Applies to him because his name is Alex Fish, otherwise I probably wouldn't have used it. Good. So a little bit about who I am. I realize I've been talking for a while now. I'm not this fair. So I'm a super geek. I have a master's in maths, then I became an accountant, and then I became a techie. So in terms of ticking all the boxes for super geek, the only thing I have to do is go to a Star Wars convention, and then I think I get the gold medal. And I have read over 50 books on Microsoft Office. This is a photo of my bookshelf with all of my books about Excel and data viz and other Microsoft Office and OneNote, and I am absolutely obsessed. I've also taught Excel to over 600 people in Cambodia. And I set up a business called Excel Consulting, where we deal with a lot of software products like this. Accounting software, Office 365, workflow software, and this thing called Power BI as well. So I also do corporate training, and I teach at university as well. I teach at Nokia University. And I've come up with this slogan recently, which is bringing your business through a time machine to the present day. Because these guys, they came in this time machine until 2015, and they're currently stuck in 1985. And that is most businesses today. Don't worry, it's not just Cambodia. I give the same talk in Hong Kong and UK. So don't worry. All right, so all this is really nice, but how does the data come in from here? That's where my 20 likes come from. It's just doing it again and again. So here's your issue. Your data is messy. You have subtotals in your data. You can't create analysis if you've got subtotals. And you've got, Excel has no way of knowing that this is Thailand, this is Cambodia, unless you bring it down. So we know how to do these manually, but that's incredibly slow. Really, you want your data to be like this, and then do the second transformation step, which is like this, where you bring it down in the orange files. And the second issue, issue 1b, is your data is what we call pivoted. And that means you have the columns for city, and then Jan, Feb, March, April, whatever. The issue here is if you just want to get a total in Phnom Penh, you have to add together 6 different numbers which are in all different columns. It's not very easy to make, especially off a pivot table, a summary of that. This is not how Excel or other data stuff like SPSS like to have data. What they want is something like this, where you have 1 column for city, 1 column for month, and 1 column for amount. This is what you want to get to. But going in Excel or in SPSS or in whatever data form you use from here to here is virtually impossible unless you use copy and paste. So copy and paste is fine, but I have one client that has 600 spreadsheets, 500 to 600 spreadsheets per month that they want aggregated into a single analysis tool. Could you imagine copy and pasting 600 tables per month? Could you imagine the errors that come up if a human copies and pastes 600 tables per month? It's just unachievable and it's just not the right way. Issue number 2, your data is split up. What does that mean? It means you've got 1 file for Jan, 1 for Feb, 1 for Campbell Tom, 1 for Kev. You want to bring them all together. And if you use copy and paste, then at least rely on these guys, because they're pretty good. Yeah, so try with 500 to 600 spreadsheets per month. So what you want to do is you want to be able to put these in a folder, these different files in a folder, and then somehow bring the data from that folder into Excel or into this other app called Power BI. And there is a tool that can do that that's called Power Query. And I'll show you how that works. So over here, this is Excel. You might recognize it. So here we have this data here. And this data actually comes from a folder here. So this is a folder where I have my France data and my Spain data. And equally here I have my France and my Spain data. So let me open up this thing called a query. So let me edit that. So it opens up a whole new screen, which is not even Excel anymore. And what this does is it allows you to source data and to transform it. So let's go through step 1. So step 1 is that our data comes from the folder. So this is, sorry, maybe I'll have to zoom in a bit. So here we have the France data, the Spain data, and someone put a light bulb PNG file in there as well. So it's identical to this, right? So I just link it to this. And in my source document, it's a link to the folder path. And then I tell Excel to filter to only show XLS files. So I don't want to take the PNG. And then I go through other steps. I remove columns, so I'm only left with the data and the name of the spreadsheet. And then I expand from workbooks into worksheets. So here we have different sheets. There's only one in each in this case. And then I expand again, and I actually get a drill down into my data in those worksheets that happen to be stored in that folder. That then takes me to the next phase. So now I have the data like this, but the data doesn't look very nice. Because if I show you the data itself from those files, let's open up the France data, I have those exact issues that I just said. So I have the subtotals here, I have Mango that's not coming down here, and I have a whole host of other issues like merged cells and hidden rows and hidden columns and text that's being spelled the wrong way, and this is a text box that I want to split because I want the product code separate to the name of the product. So it's all really, really messy. But through Power Query, you can edit that. So I'll just go through a few of the edit steps. The second query, the later one, goes through things like, so it starts like this, and you can probably kind of immediately see that my headers are in row number 5. So I just need to remove the top 4 rows. So I remove top rows. Then I promote the headers, so these become in the header column. Remove some columns, then I use the fill down command. And I'll show you the fill down command. It's just like this. Select this column, go to transform, and choose fill down. At this point, it'll ask me if I want to do it. So I press insert, and it just takes down that every row. So it's reasonably straightforward to keep doing that. And all of this, let me undo that because I've already got it. All of the steps that I've done have been done without coding. They've been done completely through the user interface of clicking these buttons, replace, transpose, reverse rows, data types, pivot and unpivot, that's why I was showing you before, and various other transformations like that. And then it loads the data. And so that is where it loads it to here. But here's the coolest thing. You create the steps one time, and then it refreshes automatically. Let me prove that. So I have my UK data, and I just drag my UK data into here, into the folder. Now it's got 3 files. And now this is me as a user. So I'm not the builder, I'm just a user. I don't want to go into that Power Query mess. I just want to deal with Excel. So all I do is I go to my data tab, and I choose this refresh all button, and then sorry, this demo is not working today. But what should happen is that it refreshes and all the UK data comes down here. I'm sorry, but I don't have time to troubleshoot that. But it does work because I use it almost every day. So you just would hit data refresh all, and it would get all the data to come in, and that would mean it would fill out and link to all this dashboard and everything else where the data is coming from. So that is the beauty of Power Query. So that is Power Query that can combine data and also clean it up. So your data, which starts out as individual parts like this, ends up getting put together in folders like this and this and this and this. And then from those folders, they go into the next section. But that brings us to issue number 3. There's no join between the data sets. So with Excel, if you have one table with targets and one table with your raw data, your actuals, the only way to create an analysis is to create different analyses of those tables and then combine them through a 2 or 3 tiered system, which gets very, very complicated. Instead, it goes into the bottom of this. Does anyone know what this is? Anyone seen this before?
Books for sale.
It's for sale. So this is called the Power Tower. Right? You've heard of it? It's a famous building in France, the Power Tower. Yeah. So the Power Tower goes from Power Query into the other steps as well. So it goes from there, where it's got Power Query that extracts and cleans the data, into step 2, which is then Power Pivot, that will link the tables together and also create calculations. And then it goes into step 3, which is to build the visuals. And the beauty about this is that it actually coexists in Excel and in this app called Power BI. I say Excel, but you guys have never used this functionality, which is Power Query and Power Pivot. But they do exist in the newest Excel versions. The same stuff exists in Power BI. And I can demo that. If I go here, I can go into my Edit Queries button, and this is the exact same interface as we saw elsewhere. Choose columns, the same things on the side, the same things on this side. You can even copy and paste a query into a query in Excel. It's pretty good like that. And then the top layer is in Excel, you would create pivot tables or charts. In Power BI, you create visuals that interact with each other. That goes into the top layer, which is a transmission tower at the top of the Power Tower. That can then transmit and publish reports either internally or externally. The internal ones, you need a password to get to it. The external ones are kind of like this one that you did, because if I press escape, this is on our Excel consulting website. Any one of you can go into this website and do what I've just done. I've got, in the website, I've got an interactive data section which keeps growing. And I've got some Nerd Night data as well. So for you guys that don't know, Nerd Night is an event that happens roughly every 2 weeks where we get people to come up and give a presentation about absolutely anything they want. And I decided, since I joined the team recently, that I wanted to collect some geeky data here. So Nerd Night has now had 103 events, and it's a shame because we discovered this after event 102. We could have had a huge 100 event celebration. We missed that. And it's had this many speakers and this many talks, all interactive, very nice, very good. All the same way. Ooh, drill down. I haven't shown you drill down. When you have data by dates, you can click on this button and you can drill down from dates into quarters, and then into months, and then finally into days as well. So you can keep drilling down, or you can drill down a specific one. This one was quite high. Drill down into quarter, etc. Also happens with this line chart, same thing. You can also point to this and find out the talks, the name of the talks that people gave. So it's actually combining the names of the people, the talks that people gave. So that is how you can publish externally. You can also have mobile apps. So you can go to a meeting, bring out your mobile app or your iPad, and you can have all these visuals that are interactive and display them and demonstrate them there. That's how useful it is. It's a free app you can get on any device. So how does it work? We've got our raw data, our targets, our survey data, and some other lists. And we want to bring the puzzle pieces together. And most of the questions we want to know in a non-profit is, are we missing the targets? Are we over budget? And sometimes that would be difficult to do, but I'm going to show you an example of my business where I've got 3 very special consultants who I've hired. And I want to assess which of those 3 consultants is causing the problems and not meeting the targets. So let's go into the Power BI app itself. Where is this one? Who to blame? So here are my 3 consultants. This is Miss Knowles, Miss Spears, and I don't think she has a last name. She just goes by Riri. So here I can see that Beyonce is doing the worst out of the 3. She's given the fewest amount of training. But fewest amount of trainings does not mean she's the one to blame, because maybe she's achieving her targets despite having lower targets. So I have this kind of heat map where I can see this is the districts going down and the types going across, which ones are not working. So I've got this red one. This red one alerts me to be, this is a heat map, red is bad. So I'm going to click on the red one, and I'm going to see, oh, actually, it's Brittany. Yeah, oops, I did it again, Brittany. But, you know what, I want to drill down further than this, because I want to go to the red of the red. So the red of the red is this rice for Putria commune, because this is now by commune and by crop. And I can click on this one. I can see that actually, oh, it is Rihanna. I always knew she had an issue. She keeps asking people for her money. She keeps thinking some people have her money and don't get it. So, so that's the kind of thing that you can glean from this. And this is a number 875. What do you think that's? Does anyone want to guess what 875 is? $875 is the number of squares, number of boxes, number of blocks. Which means that I have analyzed 875 different options of who could be failing, and I have come down to the resource of who I need to blame. In a typical NGO environment, you would have had to create 875 charts or tables with the 3 of them to get to that point. Think about the amount of time that can save. Think about the fact that you can do this not just after your project has ended, where you're doing the evaluation stage of M&E. But you could be doing this during the whole process along when you're doing the monitoring process. And you could be instantly, at every point in time, alerted as to who's not meeting the targets. Which means, of course, that you're going to meet your targets, whereas you didn't before. So that's the power that this kind of thing can give you. And you used to need a database to do this. The problems with a database, they're expensive, you need experts to bring it in, and it takes a lot of time to build. And I know because we, as a firm, have built a database. And you didn't have a database, and you shouldn't have had to have a database in order for this to be possible. Well, with this new technology, it can all be made possible. After the Power Query stage, you have your different tables, and remember the products table might have 5 million different rows. I've worked on a data set with 2.5 million before. Bring that together, link the tables. You create links between the tables. By saying, for example, my targets for male attendees is equal to, in my results table, when I say male, I want them to be added up and compared to my total targets. These are the kind of things that you can do. All right, step number 4, showing data. This guy has a pie chart describing his favorite bars, and he also has a bar chart describing his favorite pies. So this is how you can be misusing data visualization. All right, some of you have seen me do this before. What is the biggest slice of the pie? So hands up for pear. So about 13, I think that was. Hands up for mango. More. Before I move on though, how many people have ever seen this before? Someone typing live on a slideshow. I exclude the people I've worked with because you've all seen me do it 5,000 times. But how many people have seen this before? No. In fact, I've never seen anyone do it apart from me and people I've taught it to. But it's amazing. PowerPoint can do it, and it's great for trainings, it's great for meetings, it's great for lots of situations. We're not talking about PowerPoint today. We're talking about charts. So which is bigger? Is there any doubt in your mind that Mango is bigger? Pie charts suck. Pie charts are only ever good when they have 2, maybe 3 data sets. Otherwise, bar charts are always, always, always better. And it's better to use bar charts where you sort them. And it's good to put a data label sometimes. Make them thicker. The default options in Excel are too thin. Make them thicker because that's how people like to view them better. So here's what I like to use. I like to use what I call pie charts, not pie charts, where you just have one part filled in, one part not filled in. Or I also refer to this as the Pac-Man chart. I think these are the only case when it's acceptable to use pie charts. And I get looking at them way too often. Oh, sorry guys, I have a phone call here. Hello? Yeah, no, I'm not doing anything. What's up? Oh, Mr. Trump. Is your chart great again? Your country is certainly great again. Yes, yes, please don't fire me. Okay, let me ask the audience. Yeah. So this is America's greatness over time. So here we just have the American flag and the greatness factor, where it used to be a little bit great, then it was not great, and now it's even greater. And I say the word great a lot because I don't have many other words in my vocabulary. So sometimes when you want to show a point and you want to show a trend, you don't need to show values, you just need to show the trend. So try and reduce the clutter in general to make it better. All right, let's go through a few demos. Back to this guy. So, yeah, so one project I did was where I had a company that deals with 600 spreadsheets per month. but they wanted amalgamated through a folder and analyzed. I've covered a bunch of others. I'll go through some Excel ones as well. So in Excel, I teach people Excel, I give people Excel tests. And at the end of that test, they sometimes have an exam, and that's in an Excel file. So I get 20 or so exam files that I then need to mark and analyze. And what I want to do is I want to put all those files in a folder, and then get one file, one other Excel file that shows you the summary results dug in from all of them. I'm not going to show you that because that's confidential data. Same with the other ones. The other one is, I use it a lot for billing in our own business. I have one file every month that has our billing numbers, how much we invoice to customers. Then I have one overall one, which digs into that folder and then gives me a summary of all the data from all the months. There are hundreds of uses for this. And I try and avoid copying and pasting at all costs. So let me show you some other cool stuff on Power BI whilst we're here, and then a bit on Excel. I think we are going to go over a little bit, by the way. We started a bit late, so if you need to leave, please feel free to leave, but we are going to go over a little bit. So here we've got some forecasting data over here. And so it's all well and good that I can click to find out who's to blame, like I showed you before. But what about if I'm just even lazier than that? You can actually go to any point in a chart like this, click on the Analyze button and say, explain the increase. This is a feature that got released last Friday. I am so excited about it. It's amazing. This means we don't even need to do the clicking or the thinking. This app is doing it for us. So explain the increase. Running analysis. Here's the analysis of your 47% increase between the 1st of Jan 05 and the 1st of Jan 06. Brittany, so Brittany's caused it to go down, Brianna's caused it to go up. That's what green and red means. So that's my analysis like that. I don't want that chart. I can click on a stacked bar chart. I can click on this other type of chart to see different ways to analyze it. Or I can see it in different ways as well. I can see it by crop type. So rice has gone up, but gourd has gone down. So, and from here you can just, if you can't be bothered to build this, you can press the plus button. And then it inserts the chart into your sheet, like that. So this is using artificial intelligence, AI, which is actually not that scary. It's actually really, really cool. So people should stop worrying that it's going to destroy the world. Yeah, so it can produce all of these different things. Here we go. So here is a sheet where we look at deforestation by province. So here I can say, well, this is a pie chart. This is a Pac-Man chart. It's okay, 2 data sets. This is what is still forest. This is what is still forest. This is what was forest. And the size of the pie is how big the forest is in total. This is fake data, by the way. And you can see it like this. But you can also use the slider. So if I want to see everything with a deforestation rate of 20% or over, I can slider it like that. Or I can type in these boxes as well. I want to see 30%. And keep changing the data there. So you can sort of see this and analyze this. And why am I saying this is a replacement to the 50-page report? Because your donors, they want to know these answers. And if they can do this and play around with the data like this, they won't need to come back and ask you for more and more pages every time. Or, I showed you the drill down. Here we can drill down from province into district, into commune, into village, and keep going. Because Cambodia has hierarchical location data like that. Ooh, animations. Play button. Shows you at every year what's happening. Press the pause. If you ever want to analyze what happened in 2002. Again, this is not real data, so please don't get excited. Although one day I'd love to have this real data. And here you can see it by area, which is the worst, which is the best. So there's lots of different things you can do this way. Let's show you some more Excel tips, because I think this is the kind of thing you'll enjoy and be able to go home and use. So over here I've got full name and family name. Now I want to take out the name Spears out of here. So I can type in Spears here, and then I don't really want to keep typing in here. And a lot of people who have had this issue have used some complex left, right, mid, concatenate formulas. Yeah, I get some nods here. This is what Excel 2013 can do. Select this, go to Data, and this thing called Flash Fill. Pitt, Holmes, Ledger, Black, Caprio, Jonas, Levitt. But you know what? I'm not done, because Leonardo DiCaprio has 2 words in his last name. So that didn't work, did it? Let's fix it. DiCaprio. Just type it in there. Flash Fill recognizes that and fixes it for the other 2 at the bottom there. I don't like them being capital letters, black. There we go. Now it learns what I want. This is a machine learning algorithm that's behind this. You enter one detail and then it learns and enters more and more things. Has anyone seen that before? Yep. Flash Fill, super easy, super useful. All right, let's go to this. So here we want to analyze, we want to get that kind of heat map that I showed you with Brittany and Rihanna. So what you can do in Excel is you can select these numbers. Now let me ask you first, what's the highest number here?
1912. 1912.
Good. That took you too long. You should know instantly. Select them, go to Home. Don't go home yet, not quite. Conditional Formatting and Color Scales. There we go. Just give your users a visual idea of what's happening so that they can instantly learn and get visually understanding it. So that is in Conditional Formatting and Data Bar, Color Scales. By the way, everything in Conditional Formatting is amazing, particularly this text that contains. If you have ever in your spreadsheet typed out yes and made that green, and then typed out no and made it red, and then typed out another no and made it red, then use this text that contains. It is so much better and it is automated. Okay, so overall, so here we're going to do a sum. There we got the overall trend. And let's say we want a bar chart going down here. So you can select these. You can go to Conditional Formatting again. Let's go to Data Bars. And you can get a bar chart inside the cell. So a lot of people have asked me, is this a new feature? Are these? And my answer is yes, it's relatively new. It was released before the first ever smartphone. That's how new it is. It's just no one's clicked on the buttons in the last 10 years. Microsoft are that bad. So yeah, brand new feature, guys. Get to it. If you have Excel 2007, it's there. All right, next one, trend. So let's say we want a trend chart in this cell and bring that down. Click in here, go to Insert, choose Spark Lines. We're going to go with a line. And then, where's the data? The data's over here. Select it. You don't want the overall, so just until there. Press Enter. And we get a line chart of the trend inside the cell. Because it's inside the cell, it does things that cells do. They party it. You can drag it down, like that. And it means you can get bar charts and other charts inside the cell that are not full-on real charts, but there are ways that you can get that down there. All right. Another big thing. So here we have city, and we want to clean that up. So we have a few issues here. We have lots of spaces before, lots of spaces in between, and this one has some spaces after. One of them has space. This one has spaces after. So if we try and do this with a pivot table, Excel is going to go crazy. Instead, we want to make them all equal. So we can use a formula called equals trim. Trim has one input, which is text. That's just this cell. Close it, and then it gives you all of that like you want it. Just remember, if you're using text in a formula, select your column, copy, and paste values. Paste special values to convert it from text into values so that you can then get rid of this one. There we go. So that is trim, spark lines, data bars, and color scales. So yeah, I think, and with those kind of things, you can create a visual like this, where people can see the data bars like this, female versus male, at the 3 points in time, and you can give the users options to expand for more data. So this is overall, but this is looking along to it. And here, the user presses number 2, they see the numbers. The user presses number 3, they see the numbers. Oh, sorry, 2 is those numbers, and then 3 is some more, and 4 is finally the whole thing. So this is another way to present data in a way that very few people have ever seen or noticed. I've done these kind of things for projects all the time. All right. Yeah, I think those are my demos. So, all right, so let's summarize. Oh. Wait, who's liking my cat video? That's good, right? Yeah? Another 2 likes, yay. So this is a statistic that I read once, and I think it's amazing. Every year, there is twice as much data as there was the previous year. Data is everywhere. Data is in your phone, every selfie you take, every tweet you post, every message you send, everything you do is being recorded, every CCTV that clocks you. Data is becoming more and more prominent. And I realize that NGOs often hire some of the best minds in the world. I'm not referring to you guys, I'm referring to the other people. So sometimes you get the best minds in the world and they're creating these amazing things. But the problem is that their time doesn't go into that. Their time goes into everything. So the data collection, the data cleanup, the data analysis, and the final delivery. And the bigger picture is more like this, where they spend a bit of time on the data cleanup, loads of time cleaning the data unnecessarily, and then a tiny little bit of time on the analysis, and then finally the report. And I've circled the analysis and put this hat over it because this is what you went to university and studied your Masters in International Development for. This is the stuff that you're going to add value to the organization for. You never were told or how to clean up the data, or collect it, or write this report. This is the valuable stuff. But this is not how you're spending your time. You're spending your time on this. And you're spending your time on this. How it should be is that you start with a fair amount on data collection, very little on cleanup, a little time on analysis, and then this toy where you can just play with the data and click around and see what you can find. Because that's what I spent my time doing, just playing around with data. Data is going to change the world, and everyone is saying this. But the issue is there are plenty of people that have been trained on these kind of things, on how to use their microscopes to look at data. And there's plenty of people who are database guys, who are able to build databases. I'm not saying they're in this room, but there are lots of them. There's very few people that are data visualizers. And that is probably going to change very soon. So if you get on board and get into this stuff, then the future is really bright. And I can tell you, I was at a Microsoft conference yesterday in Thailand, and they had some sessions on data, and even the Microsoft partners, very, very few of them actually understood data visualization or the power of what it can do. So all of us can get on board right now. So in summary, Power BI and Excel has it. It's kind of a Venn diagram. I love my Venn diagrams. So they both have the overlap of this Power Query tool to extract and clean data. And they have this overlap of Power Pivot, which is to model the data. They also have these slices, these things where you can click and the data changes. What Power BI has, though, is that it's clickable and it publishes. And by the way, the rest of this Excel thing that I'm not mentioning here, this is the normal Excel user interface that people use. I've met very few Excel users that actually use any of these things. So Excel has way more power than it used to. So business intelligence, BI in Power BI stands for business intelligence. There are other software players as well, like Tableau and ClickView. I know Tableau have a very generous discount for NGOs. But yeah. And I will also say that if you have Excel 2010 or 2013, you're able to do all of these things. Power Query came inbuilt into 16, but you can get it for a free download from the internet. Final point. Imagine a world where two things. You can use data and you can have any data question answered. I mean anything. I mean if you want to have the total sales between the 2nd and the 5th of March in 2013 and what the year-on-year increase was for one specific product, you can use that. And point number 2, your data will stay answered. Next month, someone reloads the new data into the folder, your data will stay answered. You have new targets, your data will take that in. You never have to go back and recreate the reports and disaggregate them and redisaggregate them. They will stay answered. And this is one take-home point. So typically, when you go into a discussion about a new budget for data analytics stuff, you have a few different software types on the table. You might decide against them, but they're on the table. So you might say, do we need a database? Do we need a statistics software like SPSS or Stata? Do we need survey data like SurveyMonkey or Google Forms or other things? But very, very little times will people ask, do I need data viz software? And that is really something that I think is a worthwhile takeaway. So further resources, so this is my company. I have a Vimeo page, which I'll post a link with over 150 videos. And I saved the 4 Dummies, Microsoft Office for Dummies. I love the 4 Dummies book range. I've read about 30 of them. They are great. And you can get Excel for Dummies. And if you think you know Excel, read Excel for Dummies. I guarantee you. I've read 5 books on Excel for Dummies. And finally, the way I normally end is with a song. A long, long time ago, I sent in a tender for capacity building with style. And I knew if I had one grant, I could make those children dance, and donors, they'd be happy for a while. But indicators made me shiver with every outcome I deliver. Deadlines on the doorstep, couldn't take one more step. I can't remember if I cried when I met with government who lied. Something had me synergized the day the report died. So bye-bye, 50-page reports, goodbye. Think you read it? No one read it, except the headlines. Maybe it's time to give something else a try. singing, "This will be the end of my slides. This will be the end of my slides." Thank you.